Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining today's stream. Welcome, Jorge, AJ, Corbin, J Trade, Alex, Shelby, Vicky, Iranical, and Mac. Thank you guys so much for joining this morning. So far, the market is down just a little bit. Nothing too crazy either way. The SPY is getting pretty close to that $450 support. Definitely keep your eye on that level for the rest of the day. We did see a decent sized downtrend yesterday, but again, nothing too major. If we take a look at some of the short squeeze stocks, they're kind of mixed today. BBIG is doing very well though, especially relative to Clov. It does have a pretty big resistance right at $12, so it looks like we're set for a big day, Tom.
Yeah, it looks like so far today, you're right. BBIG is the main stock moving here. We have AMC kind of falling off just a little bit, but they're really holding their ground pretty well around 47. I could see AMC continuing up today if they break $48. That would be a pretty good break of that upper resistance level there. And like you talked about with the SPY, they are down this morning, but man, look at how much they fell whenever pre-market first opened this morning. I mean, it fell all the way below 450, and then now we came right back up, but that's a pretty scary thing to see in pre-market this morning with the market down like that. And I hope it's not foreshadowing like something to come here at open because, it's never good to see the market down like this. And obviously it's just going to keep hurting some stocks. But hey, I'm glad to see BBIG up in pre-market. And it looks like they had a high in after hours yesterday, right around 11:45, which we just touched. So it looks like 11:45 might be the level to make a break today.
Tom, check out UPST. This thing is still going.
Still going. I cannot believe it. Look at that daily chart with UPST. I was really thinking yesterday how it kind of pulled back at the end of the day that we might see a little bit of a downwards move out of UPST, but it just continued its momentum. And even though we have a red candle right now at open, it still had a great pre-market.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just checked my watch list right now. It looks like Tesla's doing decent. They're up around 1% or so right now. We have Alex saying Tesla has good numbers on China car output. What is the next resistance? So, Tom, looking at Tesla, what's the next level?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the next level somewhere right around 755 to 765. I mean, there's definitely a lot of consolidation right there. Especially like in the middle of April, you can see we were really at these levels in April. So I would say watch for like 755. If we break, it looks like we are above that at 760 right now, but there's a lot of resistance at this area that we're at right now. I would say there's definitely a lot up here around 800. You could definitely watch for that, but there is some kind of around where the stock is now. So watch out for those levels. But overall, I mean, Tesla's having a great recovery ever since yesterday. I mean, it really broke up through that trend line and it's just really moving well. And I hope that it holds 760. And here we go, it's moving up to 764. And looks like we're finally getting that run out of Tesla that we've been waiting for.
All right, so Tom, I'll be honest with you. I'm looking at my watch list right now, and I'm seeing a lot more red than green. Like there's only a couple green stocks. Even when you look at the SPY, it's kind of selling off. It's like, we do have that really big level at 450, but let's say we break below that today. What other levels do you have in stock?
Yeah, below 450. Let's look at the 90-day, 15-minute. I mean, I'm really seeing a big level at 448. I think that's going to be a huge support once we finally get to there. So I would say below 450. I'm looking for 448, but 450 will definitely be a good level to look for later. And that'll also be right on that 1000 SMA. And who knows, maybe we'll break that 1000. And if we break the 1000 with the SPY, it just normally ends up creating some pretty big red candles or some bad momentum to the downside. So watch out for that. But you're right. I mean, my watch list is almost all red today. We do have a few stocks green, like Intel, MasterCard, DraftKings, and a couple others, but they're just barely green. It's not like we're seeing them running like 2 or 3% or anything like that.
Good stuff. Alrighty, so speaking of DraftKings, we have Spacely saying those DraftKings calls are still on fire. Let's go. Good morning, good morning. Well, thanks for joining, Spacely. As you guys know, hitting that like button really helps us out. So if you like the stream, if you like the content, we would greatly appreciate it if you hit that like button. But DraftKings is popping right now, breaking above that $64 resistance, which is awesome to see. We have AJ saying, got a decent amount of shares on BBIG, selling incrementally. I think it's a good thing they are selling incrementally. No one can time the top perfectly, so good stuff there. And then AJ said AEI looks good also. So, it's up 10% or so. It's it's definitely popping up as of like the past couple days.
Yeah, and it had a great pre-market just today open. We're seeing a lot of stocks come back. Like even the stocks that were running today in pre-market, like BBIG, are starting to show some red here. So just don't be too surprised if the stock that you're watching goes red. It just seems like red is kind of coming into the market all across the board this morning for some reason.
All right, and then we have Jorge saying Enphase and run up. So Enphase is looking good. I love this stock for the long term. Looks like they're making a nice bounce right off that $170 level. I really like it.
Yeah, and ever since they recovered in the middle of May, they've had some great moves back up and they've been holding their ground pretty nicely here at around like 160 and then again here at like 165. And I think it looks like a pretty solid setup for the next few days or so, especially like with RUN, Enphase, and just all those stocks in general, like CHPT, BLNK, and all those growth stocks are kind of, doing very well the past few days. So I'm glad to see them still doing good today. And I hope that RUN ends up doing good. I've been watching it for a long time. And obviously, the other one too.
Tom, I'm really tempted with Run. Like now that Jorge brought that chart up, like I'm like eyeing some leaps on it. I think it looks pretty good. The IV's low. I actually like this setup.
Yeah, like RUN and Enphase. I don't know what it is with those ones. And Enphase is actually recovered up a little bit more than RUN. Like RUN is down more of at those like lows of May, where Enphase is actually still recovered, and they're more of like up at like $60 where RUN would be if RUN was up there. But Enphase seems like they've done a lot better, but RUN might have a lot more reward potential over the next like month or two if they do start going up.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Alrighty, so I'm doing a quick scan. It looks like Enphase is the leader on my watch list so far. RCL's having a good morning. PENN was doing great, but they're pulling back a little bit right now. Looks like Boeing's popping back up, Tom. Let's check out this one. I know Boeing was getting smacked yesterday, but I'm very, very glad to see this one pop up. I really like this one for the long term.
Yeah, and they're like right on that like blue trend line. They recently fell below that 220 support, and then they consolidated kind of at like this 212 support. So I'm hoping Boeing can go back up too. It looks like today's a nice green candle, and I would say if we come back up and move back above 220, I think I'd be pretty bullish on Boeing for the next couple months. And I like the double bottom here at 212. So hopefully it ends up holding up because it could end up being some great technicals for us for the next couple weeks.
Good stuff. And then we have Iranical saying, guys, now if I buy Bitcoin, it means I'm buying El Salvador's money. Well, I mean, some people are saying that, as more and more countries adopt Bitcoin, it'll just be like, one global currency. So who knows? Bitcoin has a lot of potential either way. We have V saying, good morning, thoughts on Beyond, please. So I'm very glad you brought this one up because I've been eyeing it for, maybe like a short put or maybe a leap, but I feel like it has potential to pop back up, especially when you look at that max weekly chart. I like the setup, but it's not like one of my favorite plays like, DraftKings or, something like that. But I do like the setup overall, and I think it's at a pretty good level.
Yeah, it's at good levels and it's been falling down. It's definitely in more of like a bearish pattern as of right now. So I would think it could possibly keep falling down, maybe down to that like $100 support. But either way, I think it's at good levels right now for the long term. The main thing is like Mike said, there's just so much other stocks out there that'll probably end up doing better. And, Beyond is just they're like in a strange sector. So I would expect to see them pop up for the long term, but in the short term, anything can happen with them.
Alrighty. And then we have Jorge saying AMC broke 48. Uh-oh, here we go. And then we have AJ saying AMC up $100 on it now. Let's go, Tom. So what are you seeing?
Yeah, it actually broke out of that kind of channel it was in. We saw that solid channel between 42.50, which had that nice triple bottom, which we've been talking about for the past few days. It had a nice move up yesterday. And then today we finally broke through that upper level, $48. Like you said, we're up to 49 now. And hey, I would expect a pretty good move up towards 50. I mean, 50 should be a pretty good resistance. And Bitcoin, or I mean, not Bitcoin, AMC should get a pretty good, momentous move since we broke 48. We've been sitting here for a long time, like honestly, for the past like 2 to 3 weeks. So I'm really happy to see it breaking this level. And I hope we end up getting a pretty good move out of it. So far, it's been pretty good up to 49.15. Like I said, though, I could really see it hitting 50 or something today.
Alrighty. So now we have AJ saying, yeah, boy, just got $120 out of AMC this morning. There we go. Love to hear that, AJ. Looking across a couple different stocks, Tom, I see Clov is just getting demolished. They're down like 10% or so, which sucks to see. It had such a great day yesterday, but then again, like it was up like over 20%. So, are you really that surprised that it's down today? So, I don't know. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too surprised it's down today. It's just my main concern is that AMC and those other stocks are kind of running up, but we have Clover just kind of, falling off. So it's a bad sign with AMC rising and Clover falling, but it's not like the end of the world. Like you said, they were up 20 something percent yesterday. AMC was only up 8%. So I could definitely see why this is happening. And it's just the main thing is that was a pretty sharp sell off at open, and it fell right below that 1,000 SMA and then below the $10 support. So it just broke support and everything, which was not a good sign to see. And, I'd love to see Clover keep going, but now that we fell back below support, it's definitely going to be scary for the rest of today. Now, that doesn't mean it can't go up tomorrow. I think it definitely still has potential for the rest of the week.
Yeah, I agree for sure. And then we have Alex saying, does PayPal look good for a day or a swing trade? Let's take a look. PYPL, in my opinion, it looks decent for a swing trade. I wouldn't day trade it right now. It had a very weird pattern. Like it gapped up and then kind of gave back all of its gains right at open. So I don't know, it just looks so indecisive, especially for a day trade. For a swing, it is in like it's in a pretty good uptrend. So I would consider it for a swing.
Yeah, me too. And the thing is whenever it went down today at open, it was really close to $300. So I'm wondering if that might poses some resistance. So just look out for that too.
Alrighty, so let's check back in on NEO. I know it was getting destroyed earlier. Looks like it's still selling off, Tom. We're down 4.5%. I know they had that news of a share offering, which normally is pretty good for the company for the long term, but we all know how share offerings can just destroy a company's movement, like we saw with SPCE.
Man, SPCE was just the main example, I think, for companies dying on that movement. Look at this with SPCE. They were at $50. Took 3 days to fall down to $30 on that news. But hey, looking at SPCE, it looks pretty decent here off this bottom support. Looks actually pretty good off of $25 if we can kind of hold its ground here. Doesn't look too bad. It's definitely a risky stock, but kind of getting back to NIO. I mean, you're right. NIO had a pretty bad day today, falling back down. And like you said, that share offering did not help them at all. And yesterday in after hours, they fell below that $40 support, which was holding up as a pretty good level. And then today we actually confirmed off of that this morning at open, ended up going right back down. So yeah, I mean, I could see NIO going down for a few days with that offering, kind of like with the chart we brought up with SPCE. I mean, SPCE fell from $50 down to $30. Now, of course, they had more stuff going on at that time than NIO does now. But at the same idea, though, NIO with the offering, I could see him maybe hitting $35 or maybe retesting support down here at 30.
Really? I mean, that'd be a pretty big move. But, we've seen some crazier things in the market lately. But, hey, I mean, even if it does, retest 30, in my opinion, that would just be a great time to buy.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it would make some great opportunities, and we'll have great opportunities to either number one, to short puts, to grab shares, open some spreads. I mean, there'll be a lot of opportunities if NIO starts to fall. And one of the big things is this, how it confirmed this morning below that $40 support. That's just pretty bad to me. And like I said, I would definitely look for 36 or 35 first. That's definitely more realistic there.
All righty. Let's see. So we have AJ saying, guys, all I need now is a great hybrid bot play, and I will not miss it this time. There we go. Hopefully it comes in clutch like it did yesterday on Disney, but we shall see. Not every play is going to explode up like Disney, but yesterday was pretty awesome for sure. But yeah, I mean, I'm just doing a quick scan. Disney's looking pretty good. Tom, I'm waiting to hear this deal, hopefully with DraftKings.
Yeah, we've been waiting for that for a few weeks now, and I thought that last week we were going to hear some news about it, but nothing ended up coming out. But look at this. Disney just broke yesterday's high right as we started talking about it. As soon as we switched to the chart, Mike, this 1 minute candle just exploded. But what a great move out of Disney, and I hope that deal ends up going through. Look at Disney on the max daily. I mean, I'll tell you what, they look like they're really starting to climb up, and It's starting to remind me a lot of like Apple's setup. Apple was consolidating for like a whole year here for a long time in a range, kind of like what Disney's doing. And Apple's been kind of breaking out the new highs now, finally. And I'm glad to see Disney starting to kind of turn itself up towards its highs. And I would expect them to kind of get up towards $200 maybe over the next few weeks. And it really looks like they might finally break this resistance here around like 185 to 186. I mean, it's hit this a couple times and it really went down. So hopefully we can get a nice break up through here. And honestly, Disney looks like one of my favorite setups right now.
Yeah, I like it for the short term and the long term. It has that breakout potential, just like we saw yesterday. But at the same time, they're, a powerhouse company and they're still at a pretty good level.
Yeah, and we're seeing powerhouses just moving right now, like Netflix, Apple, and others have just been continuing to break out. So hopefully it's Disney's turn. These other stocks have been at all-time highs, and Disney's just kind of been lagging behind for like a month or two.
Yep. All right. We have Jorge saying Pinterest should be a good grab for shares at this level. Question mark. It's still respecting this support very well. So let's take a look. PINS. So it is up around 0.5% today. It's at a good level. It's not necessarily one of like my favorite stocks, but it's still good. I like the company overall. I just like stocks like, you could say Boeing, DraftKings, PENN, Corsair, stocks like that a little more. I think Pinterest still has a lot of growth potential. It's just personally I like other stocks more. But you're 100% right. They're holding this support level very well, and it looks like a decent time for an entry.
Yeah, the support looks pretty good, and who knows, maybe it'll end up filling this gap like over the next few months or something like that. There's a pretty big gap between $60 and $70, and I could possibly see it filling that like later on this year. But the main thing is right now is that it's been going down. So as long as it holds support, I think you'll be pretty good. Like Mike said, for shares or something for the longer term, I think it's pretty good right now.
Alrighty. And then we have Brian saying, should I buy Clov now or wait? So always trust your own gut no matter what. Understand that Clov is a very risky play. It is technically like a hype stock, so it's not like you're just like dip buying Apple or anything like that. But I like it right now. Always trust your own gut, but understand it will be risky. Just really understand that.
Yeah, and you can tell like ever since Clove fell under $10, we actually on the 1 minute chart just came up and then got rejected again off of that $10 support. So it seems like $10 is going to be a pretty big resistance now. Maybe you can just make it break out above there before you buy back in, or maybe you can do a momentum play or something like that. But personally, I don't think I'd buy in right now on this dip. But overall, I mean, it's not the worst time for sure. I mean, at least it's down below $10 again. At least you're not buying in like yesterday at like 11:30 or something. That would have been a lot crazier.
Yeah, I mean, like if I were in your position, Brian, and I understood all the risks, I think it'd be a good time to maybe get half of your intended position or a third or something like that, and slowly average in. But then we have AJ saying CHPT. What's going on with it, Tom? So Tom, what are you thinking, CHPT?
Yeah, it kind of fell off today, and we're kind of seeing like NIO fell off too. And I have a feeling that NIO and Tesla and some of these other stocks kind of falling off today at open might be dragging CHPT down with it. Now, I think CHPT still has a lot of potential for the next few days, and the good news is that we're right around that 22 support, and hopefully we can hold like 22 to 21.75. I think as long as we hold here, it'll end up being pretty good. But the main thing is we just have to look at it and see if it will hold or not. We can't always expect like a huge move up right away. So we'll just kind of have to see how it ends up moving. And it didn't move down too much yet today relative to how much they could end up going up, but we'll definitely have to keep our eye on it.
Alrighty. And then we have AJ saying, wow, Disney. It's popping, Tom. I love to see it. It's up over 1%. It's looking really good. And then we have Samuel saying Palantir is dropping. Yeah, this thing's getting smacked today. It's down over 3%. It's having a really rough day. I saw it right at open, and I don't know who's coming in with all this selling pressure, but it's looking pretty bad.
Oh man, this one is pretty rough today. Wow. I mean, straight down 3.5%. I mean, wow. I mean, I thought we were looking at some bad moves out of like CHPT, NIO, some of those others, but wow. I mean, look at Palantir. This is a scary setup here. fell right below that 1,000 SMA again. And I mean, man, that was a bad sign once we fell below there. Big, huge sell off. I mean, terrible to see. Let's check out the max daily. The good news is that Palantir was recovering up nicely on the daily, and they did kind of get up to that resistance at around $27. But wow, I mean, I don't think people were expecting a sell off like this after all of the recovery that Palantir has been making back to the upside. But I will say, though, it was right at resistance. So, you do have to kind of respect those resistances sometimes.
All righty. And then we have Brian saying, Wish is getting rip. So let's see. WISH. Yeah, they've been getting smacked over like the past year or so. It's looking pretty rough. And honestly, their chart just, it definitely, I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah, me either. I mean, Wish has just been looking pretty scary. And, it had a lot of hype when it first came on the market. Seemed like a pretty hyped up stock. It was kind of like AMC, I would say, when it first came out. But now, I mean, just terrible moves down. And yeah, just for me, it's not a play anymore. It could be a nice like gamble type of play or something like that. There's definitely a lot of possible reward here. But the main thing is, for me, the risk is just way too hefty.
All righty. And then we have Rome saying, any put suggestions? Good morning. So thanks for joining the stream, Rome. For put suggestions, I was really eyeing up XLK. It is a spider ETF. I've really been eyeing it up, XLK. I think it has potential, but like I said, I'm just eyeing it up. I didn't make any major moves yet.
And this one's pretty much like an S&P 500 ETF.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, yeah, I see how it says SPDR technology, so it's pretty much like a technology ETF then, right?
Yep, for sure.
Okay, yeah, pretty good. And yeah, look at that at 160. And yeah, I mean, so you're looking up for puts on this. Yeah, I could see it. It's definitely consolidating. The QQQ looks pretty similar. The SPY is very overextended as well. And I could see it. And, personally, I bought some shares yesterday of UVXY just to kind of hedge myself. A lot of people have been looking at different positions lately to try to hedge yourself with the market. And I'll tell you what, puts on XLK, SPY, QQQ, maybe even some shares of UVXY could go a long way, especially if the market starts to fall over the next couple months. Now, of course, if we push up to all-time highs, these plays will obviously go wrong. But the whole point is that, your longer-term calls and your longer-term shares should end up doing well if the market goes up. So I think it's smart to, play the market to the downside as long as you have some type of positions, for the longer term as well. But, as long as you know what you're doing and, you have a solid portfolio built, I think it's pretty smart. But I don't think it's too smart to just start, buying puts on stuff if you don't have any like longer term positions on anything.
Exactly. I agree 100%. Then we have info saying all banks look positive today. Yeah, they're looking good. Like, if we look at Bank of America, well, they were looking good a couple minutes ago, but they're starting to sell off. Looks like Bank of America and Goldman just went red. So they were looking good, but it looks like the market's a little shaky right now. Even if we look at the SPY, it looks like it's kind of turning over again. It's selling off a little bit. So definitely keep that in mind. Then we have Navi saying, when do you guys think it's a good time to go with debit spreads instead of naked calls or puts? And would you consider a debit spread as a hedge towards the market? So great question here. So debit spreads are generally good whenever implied volatility is high. So like, for example, right now, if we look at, this is a perfect example. So like with AMC, right? The implied volatility is like 162%. And like a couple months ago when it exploded up, the implied volatility was 366%. So generally speaking, whether you bet on AMC to the upside or the downside, you probably lost. So whenever you have implied volatility very high, it's better to use debit spreads because it's a combination of, you're paying for an expensive, overpriced option, but at the same time, you're selling someone else an expensive, overpriced option. So they kind of cancel themselves out, and it's just a lot easier to profit. I would say, generally speaking, there isn't like a wrong time to play a put debit spread or a call debit spread, but there can definitely be wrong times to play naked calls and naked puts. So when in doubt, I think it's always good to use spread positions. And another thing to keep in mind is you said, would a debit spread would you consider a debit spread as a hedge towards the market? And yes, but only to an extent. So let's say we look at the SPY, and let's just say, hypothetically speaking, let's say you have, I don't know, let's say you have 1,000 shares of the SPY, and whatever, you have 1,000 shares of the SPY. Right now the SPY is at $450, and you think the market is going to tank, so you buy a put debit spread. Let's say you buy the 440 put and you sell the 430 put, right? If the market falls anywhere above 430, you are hedged. But the problem is that, let's say the market tanks down to 400, then you're only hedged until 430. So debit spreads, especially in this example, only hedge you to a certain extent. So if you're looking to hedge your portfolio overall, it would probably be smarter to get something that gives you like a wider range, like just regular puts or maybe like calls on the VIX or something like that, because God forbid anything like COVID happened again, and the world goes crazy, and then the market tanks like 30%, you won't have that full like hedge protection.
Yeah, for sure. And that makes a lot of sense. And if you ever need any help with it, Navi, just, join the Discord and just let us know in there, and we'll, we'll help you out with any spreads or any positions that you're looking to take. But definitely check out that Discord link, and we'll help you out with the spreads throughout the day. But yeah, I mean, the SPY's looking pretty good. And, I think that's a really smart question, Mike, because a lot of people have been really scared of spreads. And I know that especially like new traders, like personally, whenever I was brand new, like 5 years ago, I was really scared of spreads. It took me like a year or two to even kind of like look into them. And I know that a lot of other people probably see them as pretty daunting as well. So thanks for the explanations.
Absolutely. Great question, Navi. And then we have Maine saying ANY is waking up again. There we go. It looked great last week, but it just tanked off. But yeah, it's up like 14% today.
Look at that move. I mean, ANY really disappointed me over the past couple days after that huge move it had last week, and I'm glad to see it ripping back up today. This move is pretty nice, and it's breaking the high of yesterday too, getting up towards $7, and I'm really happy to see it going. I love to see these hype stocks / meme stocks go up, and I hope it ends up short squeezing for everybody. I heard it had a lot of potential, and you can see just like last week, we flew up from $7 all the way up to 12 and then came right back down. So they could definitely have some more movement up today, especially off that $6 support. I mean, what a hold of that support we bounced off of it like 3 or 4 times over the past 2 days.
Good stuff. And then we have Vicky saying support and resistance for Disney and Penn, please. So Tom, hit us with those levels.
Yeah, Disney's going to be pretty hard here, but as we go up, there's a pretty solid resistance coming up right at like 187 on Disney. And, we're really close to it. We can look on the 90-day, 15-minute. Okay, yeah. So it looks like in after hours that they hit up towards 190. So 190 would be the next one right after like 187. So if we break 187, definitely look for 190. 190, I think, will be the best level to look for. As far as support goes, the level that we kind of bounced off of this morning at 185, I think, will pose as a great support somewhere right around 184 to 185.
All righty. And then we need Penn, Penn.
Penn Gaming. Yeah, let's see. Penn has a great support here, actually, right around $84, and below 84, I'm seeing another one at around 81. So it seems like there's a lot of levels there on Penn. Like we definitely consolidated there for a couple of weeks. So a lot of levels that we're finally breaking out of. Now, as far as like levels that we're kind of heading up to like for resistance, looks like we're just now breaking out of resistance around like 85, which is awesome. But I see resistance coming up around $90 to $91. So I think there could be some pretty good moves out of Penn over the next day or two.
All right, and then we have Mink saying, good morning, thoughts on Netflix. So I think Netflix is very, very overbought, and it's about to pull back. Now, it's just my opinion, but with this movement over like the past month or two, it just looks way overbought.
Yeah, for sure. And it consolidated for a long time, and we're finally seeing this extravagant move up. And, we broke $600. We're up to 613, and who knows? It could run to like 640 or 630 before it ends up falling. But, I could see it coming down pretty hard. There's been like, I think I was calculating it up for Vicky yesterday at like 8 green days in a row. And now it looks like 9 ever since this red day. But if you don't count this one red day in the middle, I mean, you're talking like 15 green days in a row here on Netflix. So I could definitely see some downwards movement too. And I don't see Netflix crashing or anything, but I could definitely see a little bit of a pullback or something pretty small at least.
Yeah, I agree for sure. And then we have Navi saying, I appreciate you guys taking the time to answer my question, Mike and Tom. You know it. Thanks for joining the stream. We're glad to do this. And then we have Spacely saying, or asking about the UPST 300 strike calls. So, Spacely, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not a fan of it. I've been watching this thing run up since like 130. I was in calls like when it was at $130 and it boomed up, and I thought I was getting a great deal selling it at like 160 or 170, and now it's at 270. So I was a little early. Definitely not lying about that. But I don't know. I think it's just way overbought.
Yeah, me too. And, I've been looking at it to go down for the past few days now, and it just keeps proving me wrong and just keeps ripping. But eventually we will see this start to come down. And once we finally do, I think that everybody who's been waiting for puts will end up having some pretty good moves on this one. Cause I could see a pretty solid move down to like $250 or something like that. That's only like 1 or 2 days worth of movement for a stock like this.
So yeah, Spacely, always trust your gut no matter what. We've been saying it's overbought for like the past
yeah,
however long now, but always trust your gut no matter what. And then we have Spacely saying, hit the like button, guys. Yeah, if you like the stream, it would help us out a ton if you could hit that like button. We'd greatly appreciate it. And then we have G saying, Clov, Smooth Brain Ape has entered the chat. Did I miss your take on the movement right now? So, yeah, we covered it, but we could definitely cover it again. So, Clov is down like 10% or so today. But let's keep in mind that it was also up like 22 or 23% yesterday, which, I'm not too surprised about a pullback, but then again, a 10% pullback is pretty good. And then, Tom, I know you were mentioning something with, how Clove's pulling back and then like AMC is rallying.
Yeah, AMC was rallying earlier on today. And if we go look at AMC's chart, of course it's pulling back now, but early on this morning, AMC broke their 48 resistance and they really ran up all the way to 49.40. I was really targeting $50, but it looks like we didn't get there, but great moves out of AMC. But if we go look at Clover, it was the exact opposite, straight down to the downside. It opened, broke some key technicals like the 1,000 SMA, and we even fell below the $10 support and then came back up, confirmed right off of it, and then fell back down even lower to where we are now. So it's been terrible moves so far today for Clover, while some of these other stocks like AMC and BBIG have done a lot better. Now, BBIG isn't doing as good as AMC is, but still, though, they're doing pretty good if you count the after hours movement yesterday. But, it just seems like that Clover is really falling behind some of these other hype stocks. And that worries me a lot because, if everybody's still flying into AMC, BBIG, and some of these others, but selling Clover, that's a bad sign. But, Clover did have that great day yesterday. And I'll tell you what, I'm sure a lot of people were buying it off that $8 support. If you look at Clover on like a 180-day 4-hour chart, I mean, we hit off of $8 like 10 times down here. So I would not be surprised if some big sellers took profits and maybe kind of made it fall down today like this. And I think it still has a lot of potential for the rest of the week. But this move below 10 today was pretty bad.
All right, and then we have Corbin saying, I want to break my all-time high, then transfer my money to a Thinkorswim cash account. So, yeah, I mean, definitely go for it. I love Thinkorswim, and I think I think they're a great platform. And then we have JB asking about SBOW. So this one's up like 14% today. I've actually never heard of this company, but they're rallying very well.
Yeah, I've never heard of it either, but Mike, it almost reminds me of it's like a setup like CCJ or like some of these uranium stocks lately. Yeah. I don't know what this company does, but definitely good moves up, kind of like that, and great moves up through $20 today. I think that was a great break, and we had a good breakout today, so that was a solid move for whoever saw it. But we are getting up towards these resistances now, and I would say maybe target $25, but I don't think I would look for it to go too higher than that.
All right, so I just looked them up. It looks like they're an oil drilling and gas well company. So, I mean, it's booming. So I'll definitely keep my eye on it either way. And then with the next comment, we have Shelby saying, check out GSAT. Let's take a look. GSAT, yeah, it's booming, Tom. Looks great. It's up like 13%.
Yeah, it does look great. And, we had that. I remember they had that great news. And I believe this was the company working with Amazon, right?
Apple, I believe.
Apple. Okay, Apple. Yeah, I knew it was one of them, but a great move up. And then we just kind of consolidated. And I'll tell you what, if AMC and these hype stock keep moving, I could see GSAT flying up too. And it's a pretty good move that they're having today, back up towards that resistance level of a few days ago. And I'll tell you what, it doesn't look bad. As far as right now, like I don't think I'd buy in at this very second, but if we could finally like break out of like $2.40 or the high of a few days ago, I would like it a lot more.
All right, and then let me go back to the stream. Then we have Navi saying, if the market runs off of news and rumors, what's the point of looking at the fundamentals that a particular company operates under? So, here, let me give you an example. Like, fundamentals are extremely important to look at. And, like, let's say we look at QS, Tom. QS. So last year, this stock was booming up, right? It went from $11 up to $132, right? It had great news, great rumors, all that stuff, right? Like the technicals were great. It was exploding up. But the problem is that at the time, this company had $0 in revenue. $0, like nothing, zero. So at the same time, the stock's going from $11 up to $132. So I feel like a lot of people can get caught up in the hype, get caught up in the rumors, and think, all right, this stock went from $11 up to $132. What's stopping it from going from 132 up to 400? And without looking at the fundamentals, you just don't get like the full picture. So like you'll see a lot of stocks boom up or boom down off of big news or rumors or whatever, but the fundamentals are, in my opinion, probably more important, especially over like the long term.
Yeah, definitely. And one other thing to keep in mind, Navi, is that whenever you're looking at stuff like with news and rumors and stuff like that, keep in mind that like the billionaires out there and like the really big players with big money, like of course they might buy a stock like QS like on the way up maybe for like a very quick trade or something like that, but these big players, they don't buy and hold stocks like QS for the long term at all because of those fundamentals. They definitely go into stocks like Apple, where you can see like, oh, look at Apple's long-term chart. Their fundamentals are great. They just go up and up for the long term. And these guys put millions and billions of dollars into these stocks that have the good fundamentals because they generally just go up steadily for the long term. Now, of course, all the, like whenever you have a smaller account and stuff like that, and most retail traders are like this, you're always looking for like those stocks that are smaller, that are going to give you the highest, reward comparative to your risk. But for these guys, whenever they're putting in this much money, for them, it's almost all about risk. Like if they risk only, like with them, if they buy Apple, they know that in 5 years, Apple's going to be up. So their risk is almost zero whenever they buy Apple with that money. But if they buy, like a stock like QS or a stock like AMC or something, they have a huge risk. So I think that's the main thing it comes down to, is just the risk and stuff like that. And also keep in mind that if they do play some of these stocks, they'll probably just play it with, like very minimal amounts of money, or like I said, just get in and out really quickly.
All right, and then we have Sean asking about HAIN. So I played this one for an earnings play a little while ago, and it got smacked on earnings, but it looks to be slowly coming back up. They might break out of this like $38.50 resistance, but honestly, like it's not really like a great setup for me. Tom, what are you thinking with this one?
I think it looks pretty good. It's recovering up pretty nicely on the daily chart. It's just really hard to say for me. It's really it's a difficult setup right now. It's kind of like in between to me, like a recovery play and like a dead cat bounce. And to me, it looks more of like with these past two green days that it might recover back up. But either way, it's kind of like on the, it had that bad downtrend over the past week or a couple weeks ago where it had that big drop down. But either way, it is recovering up nicely. And I would think if we could break back above 38.30, it could end up moving pretty well. But I don't know too much about their fundamentals. And it does look like they are starting that downtrend a little.
All right, and then we have AJ asking about Boeing. So I love Boeing for the long term. For the short term, they technically are bouncing today, but they're just more of like a longer term play for me until they like start to show some like really good momentum.
Yeah, definitely. And they're kind of falling off and they're sitting right on these trend lines and stuff like that. So if we do see a nice bounce up, it could be a nice momentum play for the next couple of days off of these levels. But just be really careful. If we end up falling through this trend line and we end up going down to the downside, I think we could see Boeing falling off pretty far, especially since we fell below that 220 support. So just be really careful. To me, Boeing almost looks like it wants to go down. And, I'm pretty biased towards Boeing to the upside. And I hate to say that, but it just almost looks like they want to try to fall.
All right. And then we have Navi saying, so would you guys say news and rumors equal short term or even day trades and fundamentals equal long term? Yeah, I would definitely say that. Fundamentals are basically what drives the stock, like at any point for, I would say, over the course of, 6 months or longer. So I agree with you 100%. Then we have info saying SPCE wants to go up. Let's take a look. SPCE. Yeah, I mean, they're bouncing very well. They're up like 2.5%. Looks like they're trying to hold that 25 support.
Yeah, that support's holding up really well. And look at SPCE on the daily. I mean, they're really far off their highs and they are down here by support. So it could end up being a pretty good play to maybe start averaging into some shares or maybe get some leaps. Personally, I think I would just start averaging into shares personally. I know that they just had some problems with their launches a few weeks ago too, which made them fall even worse. So just keep your eyes on them. They're really like how Navi's been asking about some of these companies, like with the news and rumors. Like SBCE is almost all news and rumor driven right now, since they're not really since they don't really have any revenue going yet. But once they start get going as a company, I think that their stock will get a lot better. But as of right now, I would just like almost trade them as they're having launches and stuff like that. It seems like unless they have a catalyst going, they just don't move too much.
All right, we have AJ saying, signing off today because of stupid work. Thanks for the AMC hype. Got a nice play on it. There we go, AJ. Thanks so much for joining. Tom, let's take a look at what's moving so far. And on my scan, it looks like DoorDash, DASH, is starting to really pop off. They're up like 2% today.
Yeah, they are. What a move up out of DoorDash. Like they've been consolidating and they finally broke that like 195 resistance. That was a good move today, up towards 200 and even higher. So great moves out of DoorDash. I wonder how like Uber and Lyft are doing today. Looks like they're actually red. I know that they're kind of in the same sector, but yeah, Dash here is doing great. I'm glad to see it flying up like this. And since it broke 200, I would think it could keep running.
All right. And then I saw that Moderna is kind of in a tough pullback today.
Is it? I know they had a huge day up yesterday. Let's check them out. Yeah, that's a pretty bad move down, back down to like 422. Yeah, they were at like 440 at open. That's a pretty bad move. And look at them on the daily. Like they were really turning back to the upside. And now that red day just came in. And I don't know, it's hard to say. Like there is a pretty big support here at 420. I would think we could hold this and then maybe go back up for the next few days. But Moderna is so overextended on the max daily chart. Like, we've been waiting for it to fall for a long time. And of course it had that big drop from 500 down to 350, but I'm really curious to see if it'll keep recovering tomorrow or not.
All right. And then another one is Netflix, Tom. This one looks to be testing or actually breaking their all-time high.
Yeah, right now, actually, it just got there a minute ago, and hopefully it can keep running because, like you said, it just broke, and it might end up being a pretty good play, like a good momentum play since it broke. But sometimes we see breakouts and stuff, so be a little careful of that. But Netflix is really running, and I don't know, Mike, like these stocks, they just keep going and going. And like I pointed out earlier in the stream, like it's been like if we discount this one very small red candle here on the daily chart, there's been like 15 green days in a row on Netflix.
All right, and then we have G saying, you guys talk about DraftKings a lot. Are you guys bullish for the long term or for trading in margins? Thanks. So definitely the long term. I love this company for the long term, and I think Tom feels the same way.
Yeah, definitely. I'm more of like a longer term player on DraftKings personally myself. And looking at it today, like it is at the 65 resistance. So like buying shares at 65 could be pretty hard, but they have a lot of good stuff going for them. And I'll tell you what, averaging in right here would not be terrible, I don't think. This stock's only valued at, what is it, $64. And I'll tell you, like, there's some other stocks out there that I could see DraftKings really overtaking a lot of these other stocks, like MGM and some of these others. I know that their MGM does hotels and stuff like that too, but man, DraftKings is just so solid. And I think that for the next few years, they'll end up doing really good as more people or more states legalize sports betting and everything like that. But I really like it. And, like he said, the long term for it's great, but the short term for it can work out pretty well too. It's just that right now we're just at resistance, which sucks. But for the long term and the short term, I like it. Like for the past few days, I've loved it in the short term.
All right. And then we have James saying VLRS looks good for the long term, does not follow the Jets ETF. Oh, yeah, VLRS. I've never heard of this company before. Let's see it. Yeah, I mean, I've literally never heard of this company. They're doing very well over the past year. They went from like $4 up to like 20, which is great. But yeah, the technicals look good.
Yeah, what a great move up. And the daily chart does not look bad. I mean, the only thing that looks bad is that big pullback they had from 23.50 all the way down to like $18 where we bounced. But as of right now, I would think we could get a possible recovery back up. Personally, it's just not the stock for me though. If you definitely know your research on it and stuff though, it could be a good stock. It looks like it's had great movement since it's had great movement for the past year or two.
All right, and then we have Brian saying, or just asking about the Wish support levels. So WISH, I see a pretty big one right at $6. What are you seeing?
Yeah, definitely right around $6 is going to be, I think, the main level to look for. Looks like we came down to like $6.08. So that's going to be the level to look for. And I would say before six, maybe watch for $7, which we're at like right now. That could end up being a pretty good support. And it looks like that 1,000 SMA is also right at seven. So if you see a good bounce off of seven, that might be a good support. But definitely watch it because $6 is more of like the longer term level.
All right, and then we have Navi saying, appreciate you guys, have to sign off. Navi, the name, TIME stands for to initiate my existence, and that's what we are all trying to do. Keep building our long terms while making smart plays. Shout out Mike and Tom. So thanks so much for everything, Navi, and thanks for joining. We had a great time with you on today. And then we have Silent asking about Clov. So CLOV, let's take a look. They're down like 11% today. Just keep in mind, they're a risky play. They're a hype play. I still like them, but understand that they're very, very risky. Another thing to keep in mind is I know it's different, but the last time Clove ran up, like, it did have its fair share of red days in the mix, so I'm not really too worried about it. Just understand it's a risky and a very volatile play.
Yeah, and as long as we can like hold up and possibly start to go up tomorrow or over the next few days, I think it'll end up being a pretty good move. And Clover's been a pretty good stock for the past week or two off of that $8 support. And, we are down by this support again at $9.50. And who knows, we might hold that today, intraday, or maybe tomorrow morning and then get a nice pop again.
Good stuff. Alrighty, so then we have L saying, what do you guys think about Disney passing $195 by September 24th? So there is around a 36.53% chance of that happening. I just checked the statistics on the chain. So it's unlikely, but I really like the way Disney's moving, and I do like it for the long term and the short term. It's just 190 is, it's a relatively big move for a slow moving stock like Disney.
Yeah, it is. And I do see resistance up there around 190 as well. And who knows, we might need just, sometimes Disney posts good news. Like you'll see some, like a drop with like some good Disney Plus numbers, like some park numbers, or who knows, even like a new movie or something could be good for Disney. But they end up doing pretty good. And I'll tell you that the daily chart looks pretty solid here. And I would definitely look for them to go up. Like Mike said, the calculated chances of that are pretty low, but just looking at the movement, like we're definitely eyeing up 190 as being like the next level if we get a breakout from here.
All right, so Tom, do you have any last minute stocks, options, or anything you're watching for the rest of the day?
Man, I'm still eyeing up NIO, and I'm just sad to see it going down again. Like I hate to see it keep falling off a cliff like this, and hopefully we can be able to maybe buy in at support at maybe like $35 over the next few days if it keeps going down like this. But I'm really eyeing it up for shares or maybe for selling puts. I know they had that share offering, and if the stock keeps going down, honestly, it'll make for some great opportunities, especially like with an EV stock like this. I think that the opportunities are really good with it. So definitely eyeing these guys up. And then I'm also eyeing up some of these credit card companies like Visa, MasterCard, and a couple others. If we look at them on the daily, they've been really pulling back, and it looks like Visa and MasterCard are kind of bouncing off support and getting a little bit of a recovery back.
All right, there we go. And then we have G saying, all right, fellas, got to go make more money to invest. Thank you guys for everything. Cheers. Well, thanks so much for joining, G. And yeah, I mean, a quick recap of the market right now. Like if we look at like AMC, they're kind of all over the place today. They were looking great at open. Now they're coming down. They're all over the place. When we look at the SPY, again, it's kind of all over the place as well. You know, it had horrible movement in pre-market, came back at open. Now it's coming back down. So technically, it's very flat on the day. It's only down 0.06%. So not too much movement out of that so far. I'm not seeing any great momentum out of anything so far this morning. You know, NEO was tanking like Tom mentioned. Apple's kind of falling off the board a little bit. So yeah, I mean, guys, there's not too much movement going on, but we hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, and thank you guys so much for joining the stream.